All right, another couple days of this and we should be ready for that test. Actually, this is 2.5, not 2.4. Again, going through this quick review, making sure we actually revisit this stuff because I want to make sure that we don't forget about how this stuff works when we take this test. I do believe, again, that after you take this test, as long as you're preparing the right way, you should be in a much better position to get out of this class as long as you're taking it seriously. The minus or the plus 5 means we put -5 on both sides and end up with x equals 4. When you see -6, move it using +6, bringing down x is equal to 8. When you see 2 times x is equal to 10, remember that we divide by 2, or what I said is if a number is attached, you need one on top and bottom, so we add one to the bottom, we divide, those two things go away, giving us x equals 5. Here we have x divided by 3, or as I said yesterday, a number on the bottom means I need a number on the top. So I multiply on both sides, those two things go away, giving me x equals 18. So as long as you've got that down, that should be good. Again, muscle memory on this, making sure to remember that this number goes first by using what we first learned, which was our first part. -3, bring down your 2x, 11 minus 3 is 8. Take your time on that because I'm seeing a lot of people start to kind of miss it because they're not subtracting right. Even if you have to use your fingers, do that. I'm making these numbers easy enough that you shouldn't have to use anything major to do your subtraction or your addition. Either way, after that, you divide both sides by 2, getting the answer of x equals 4. On this one, once again, move your 1, so +1 +1. 8x comes down with 24. Now you have your 8 times x, so you divide by 8 on both sides, getting x equals 3. 5x plus 2 is 17. Again, move that 2 first, bring down your 5x. 17 minus 2 is 15. This is 5 times x, so we divide by 5 on both sides, getting x is equal to 3. And then the last one for this set, 3x minus 4 is 23. So we add 4 to both sides, getting 3x equals 27, and then dividing by 3 to get x is 9. So again, that is the first portion of what we're talking about. Then we get into some division problems here, or fractional problems, I guess. But again, same thing. This is a fraction. That number is definitely tagging along because it just says x over 2 plus 3. So get rid of the plus 3 by using -3, and from there everything else should fall into place. 6 minus 3 is 3. You have a 2 on the bottom, so we multiply a 2 to the top, getting rid of these things, getting the answer of x equals 6. X over 5 minus 2 equals 1, so we put +2 plus 2. X over 5 comes down with 3. Again, 5's on the bottom being divided, so we multiply both sides by 5. And x comes down with 15. X over 3 plus 1 equals 4. Again, that's your tag along, so get rid of that first by putting your -1 -1. After that, you have a 3 being divided on the bottom, so put a 3 on the top multiplying, and x is equal to 9. X over 2 minus 5 equals 3. Again, get rid of that 5 by using its opposite, so +5 on both sides. From there, you have a 2 on the bottom, so you multiply both sides by 2, getting x equals 16. X plus 2 over 3 equals 1. Once again, looking at this, this is the number that's the weakest, because again, in this situation, it was x over 3 together with +1 being added. Here it's x plus 2 together with 3 being sent to the basement. So you want to get rid of the 3, and again, the way you get rid of a 3 on the bottom is by multiplying a 3 to the top. And when I say multiply to the top, it just means pretty much put a 3 up top, because remember that they cancel anyway. Don't touch the x plus 2 at all, and then from there work as you normally would when it was a one-step equation. Once again, x minus 1 is together, 3 is sent off to the basement, so we get rid of that 3 by multiplying. Don't touch the x minus 1, just copy it down as is. 3 times 4 is 12, and please don't mess that up. There's a multiplication fact thing at the bottom of your page, and you end up with x equals 13. Once again, x plus 3 together. 2 is at the bottom, so therefore we get rid of that 2 by multiplying to the top. The 2's cancel out. X plus 3 comes down as is. 3 times 2 turns into 6. From there, you want to get rid of your plus 3 by putting minus 3 the way we started off with, getting the final answer of x is equal to 3. Hopefully you're starting to see the repetitiveness of this, and hopefully it's not making you shut down. But again, if it's boring because you know it, that's a good thing. That means that you'll probably do a good job on the test, or at least a decent job on the test. Just again, make sure you're getting this stuff down so you don't have to worry about it. X minus 2 over 5 equals 3. Again, over 5 means we're going to get rid of the 5. These two things go away. X minus 2 comes down with 15. From there, add 2 to both sides, getting x equals 17. Number 17, negative 4x plus 3 equals 15. So what we're going to do is get rid of the 3 by subtracting it. 15 minus 3 is 12. Remember, this is just the same as the one if that was a regular 4x. It just got the negative on it. The thing that negative does, if you remember, is that when you divide by a negative, it actually makes your answer negative. 12 divided by 4 is 3, but because the signs are different, it makes a negative 3. And that's really all that there is. But I also told you that you would end up getting 1, 2, 3 points out of 4, even if you don't get the negative 3, doing just what you've been trained to do. So that's 75% of that question, just for following what we've been doing, which is what I'm starting right now. Plus 5, bring down whatever is left, divide by negative 2, divide by negative 2, bring down x. Even if you brought down a 4, you'd get 1, 2, 3 points, but just remember it should be a negative 4, because anytime the signs are different, your answer is going to be negative. I almost accidentally said, are there any questions? But I forgot. I'm not talking to actual people live. 19. Again, situation here, the easiest way to do it is to get rid of the 3 on the bottom by multiplying. That goes away. Remember that everything else comes down, so 4x comes down with 24. You then divide by 4 to get your final answer of x equals 6. Here, 3 over 2x equals 6. Again, get rid of the 2 on the bottom by multiplying. That goes away. 3x comes down with 12. From there, you divide by 3 to get x equals 4. The distributive property, you have to remember the distributive property again whenever you see the parentheses. And this isn't solved. This is just a quick review on what we did yesterday. That you do 2 times x and then 2 times 3. Again, the sign just comes down. We're not trying to trick you by putting crazy things out there. There are 3 types of distributive property. There's the one with a positive number out, which is the one where you end up with 2x plus 6. There's the one where you could put a negative number out. And what that does is it changes both signs. But again, we're not going to give you that. And then there's just the one with the regular negative out, which just switches signs. We're not showing you those. It's basically just the most fundamental type that there is. So you shouldn't have to really worry about much outside of making sure you remember to multiply that number by both. So 3 times x becomes 3x. Copy the sign. 3 times 4 becomes 12. And that's all. All right. Here, 4x plus 8 again, and then bring down the rest. And from there, it's a basic problem. So now you subtract your 8, you subtract your 8. 4x comes down with 12. You then divide by 4, and x is equal to 3. That's it. Here, 3x plus 6 equals 15. Again, the first thing we have to do is distribute because we see the parentheses. Minus 6, 3x comes down with 9, divided by 3, and x is equal to 3. And then the last one on this, again, distribute. 5x plus 5, not 1, that's where people mess up, equals 45. And then you subtract 5 from both sides, getting 5x equals 40. And then divide. I was thinking of the answer when I wrote that, to get x equals 8. So pretty much so far what we've learned is this. We learned one-step equations. One-step equations is something like x plus 3 equals 5, x minus 4 equals 2, x over 3 equals 4, and 5x equals 10. These are all one step because you only have to get rid of one number to get x by itself. This isn't really a challenge, or isn't supposed to be a challenge to you. And when you go to your algebra class next year, Algebra 134B, this is not supposed to be a challenge. This is supposed to be the equivalent of addition, subtraction. So one-step equations was taught first. Then you got into two-step equations. And in two-step equations, what you have to do is realize that this is what I would call home. And when I say home, it means from here you should be able to just kind of do the work. Subtract 3, 2x equals 2, divide by 2, x equals 1. And so home is a very basic type of problem. And the reason that I call it home is because most of the things that you're going to do end up looking like that. And so what math is now doing is, I guess I'll draw it the way you should recognize it. Forgive my artistry here. So here's your home. And all that math is going to do is it's going to take one step out that direction, it's going to take one step out that direction, one step out that direction, one step out that direction, one step out that direction. So in other words, what you should notice, and I'm going to show you an example in just a second, actually I'll show you two, is this is where the problem's going to be. Once you take one step, you're now home and everything's fine. For example, this doesn't look like home because it's one step away. And once you do the one step of distributing, you end up with 5x plus 5 equals 45, and you are home, which is where you do what you do. So one of those things is distributive property. Another one of those things is combine like terms, and that's what we're going to talk about right now. So again, the problem itself is here. It's not hard, it's just a step away from what you're used to. But once you recognize you have to combine like terms, just like before you had to recognize that you were going to distribute because you saw parentheses, once you see you combine like terms and you combine them, you'll notice that it's just the same problem as it was. But before we get to that, let's just make sure we talk about it. Remember that combine like terms means that you have two things that represent the same thing that can be put together. If you had 3x's and 4x's, they work together to make 7x's, and then just bring down your minus 2. Simplify means write it in the best way possible. If you had a bottle of ketchup here, a bottle of ketchup there, a bottle of mustard, bottle of ketchup, bottle of mustard, that's not what your rack should look like. It should be all four of these ketchups put together and all three of these mustards put together. And so that would be the organized form of what's going on, not everything being mixed up where you have everything to where if you're looking for ketchup, you have to actually go all the way across. All your ketchup should be put together. All your mustard should be put together. Sorry if that confused you, but the bottom line is you have x's taking up a slot, you have x's taking up a second slot, and then you have a 2. Well, these x's could now take up one slot if you just put them together and then end up with your 2. Same thing here. X's and x's can be put together. 7 and 2 make 9 x's, and then bring down your minus 5. The only trick with 30 and 31 is making sure you recognize that that is 1x. If I were to ask you how many e's you see right here, you would say 1. If I were to ask you how many z's you see right here, you would say 1. Because seeing an m or seeing an n or an x or a y means that there is obviously 1 there anyway. So the trick is when you see x, you have to remember there's 1x here and 7x is there, which makes 8x, and then bring down your plus 4. And that's how you simplify that. All right. So again, this is 1x and 2x's, which makes 3x. Then bring down your plus 9. So that is your combining like terms, which, as I said, is now what they will do to take you away from home just for a second. So with that being the case, the first thing you need to notice is this does not look like home. So what you're looking for is something that looks nice and easy. This doesn't look like home, so you have to kind of glance at it and say, hold on, these two things can be put together to make 5x minus 4 equals 16. And look at that. Now you're home. So now we put plus 4, 5x comes down with 20. We divide by 5, and x equals 4. That's it. Once you take that first step, as I told you here, Once you take that first step and you combine your like terms, everything else is easy because you recognize the problem again. It looks unrecognizable because you have to combine. It looks unrecognizable because you have to distribute. It looks unrecognizable because of one thing we're going to see tomorrow on the lesson. But again, outside of that, once you do that one step and you recognize it, everything gets easy again, which is why I said, even though your goal is 10 out of 14, you might be able to actually get more than that, because hopefully after all this is done, you kind of have the ability to think your way through this stuff. Here, 7x and 2, this doesn't look recognizable, but 7x and 2x can be put together to make 9x. Bring down your -3, and then from there, we go to work and get everything else the same. And again, I'm not describing this because that part should already kind of be automatic, since it is what we've been working on for about the last week or so. X plus 3 plus 5x. Again, the key thing to remember is that's 1 and 5. Not to bring down 5x, that's 1 and 5, which makes 6 x's. Bring down your +3 equals 21. And then you're home. Everything else, again, is the same. 6x comes down with 18. Divide by 6, divide by 6, and x is equal to 3. And it just becomes automatically repetitive. And then the last one, you have an x and a 4x, which make 5x. Bring down your +1. Now you solve as usual because we are home. 5x equals 30. Divide by 5, divide by 5, and x is equal to 6. Hopefully you're starting to see now why we all are saying, I don't know what class you're in, but like I said, hopefully you're seeing what we all are saying, which is that you should pretty much be passing this class. This stuff isn't tough. It just comes down to whether or not you really want to do it. So go ahead and take a second to pause the video and review that stuff real fast, and then I will go over it. So go ahead and pause that now if you haven't, because I'm about to start in about 5 seconds. Number 36, you wanted to subtract 5, you end up with 3x equals 15. You then divide by 3, getting the answer of x equals 5. On number 37, you add 2, you get x over 3 equals 6. You then multiply by 3, getting x equals 18. 38, again, this is just like that one. The only difference is that 2 is negative, so don't change anything yet. Bring down your -2x, bring down your 10. Just remember, again, when you divide by a negative, that your answer will be negative. Here, don't forget that x minus 2 is together, and 3 is the first thing to go. So you multiply first, bringing down x minus 2 as it is, and 6. Then adding 2 to get to the rest of your answer there. Number 40, don't forget the best way to work this out is to get rid of the denominator, which is 3, by multiplying. Those two things go away. 2 and x comes down with 18. And from there, you go ahead and divide by 2 to get x equals 9. Again, 41 looks unrecognizable, but it's only because we have to distribute. How do I know we have to distribute? Because there's parentheses there, and that's your hint that you need to turn this into 3x plus 6 equals 9. And then from there we solve because that's home. So 3x equals 3. We then divide by 3 on both sides, and 3 divided by itself is going to be 1. 42 also looks unrecognizable, and when it does, you just have to remember that there's certain things you do. So now you recognize, hey, I can put these two things together. 2x and 3x make 5. Bring down your -5 and your 15, and from there again you're home. You just work it out as you normally would, and hopefully you're getting to the point to where you kind of work through it that fast, because the more you do it, the faster you get. And then 43, the only trick to 43 is when you recognize you can put these together, don't forget this is 1 and 4, which makes 5x. Bring down your +3 and your 13. And then from there, go ahead and work it out as you normally would. So with that being the case, again, go ahead and go to Math Excel, get some practice on that stuff. Got about 2 more days of this stuff before you take your test. Just make sure you're making the most out of this stuff, because again, the Chapter 2 quiz and the Chapter 2 test, hopefully you did your job on the Chapter 2 quiz, but the Chapter 2 test can really make a difference. I would say, again, check your check your district page to see what your Chapter 2 quiz was for quarter 3. If you don't know how to do that, you should talk to somebody. But again, check your grade and see, but chances are you probably didn't have such a high score last quarter. and doing well on this is going to make a difference. But outside of that, I will talk to you later, and good luck.